Good evening, everybody. It's your friend, the based Albertan Sean Vanderley, here with you with another Thiel Tuesday, working through 0 to 1. Now, last week what we talked about was sort of essentially a case study in the power of thinking for yourself. The example being where Mr. Thiel stated that Russian collusion was bogus well before the Mueller report was released, showing it to be bogus. He could think for himself. He showed up, he basically quieted down the room pretty good because it was full of a bunch of journalists who had been essentially I think it's reasonable to imply had been pushing the Russia hoax. But Thiel set himself apart by not going with consensus, thinking for himself, and blankly stating that he thought that the idea of Donald being essentially a Russian spy was totally absurd. So now we're back to the book, though. Why don't people see the power law in the chapter Follow the Money? Now, in this chapter, Mr. Thiel starts by talking about venture capital funds and why they don't see it, even though it's central to their whole business model if they want to be successful. They got to be looking for not just big winners, but mega big winners with essentially a sort of one of those bacterial growth type rates of return. And so the reason why he says that this is missed is essentially inherent in the nature of the way these funds develop. So when they start, if you said to pick an arbitrary point in time where money had been assembled and they're starting to make some investments, it's early on in the life of not only the fund, but the companies that it's funding. So they have money out there working for them at these various ideas, yet there's no way to decide who the winners and the losers are yet, because they're all hiring and equipping and trying things out and starting to develop a product. Later, you're starting to see winners and losers diverge. Maybe one or two have gone broke and one or two are starting to develop nicely. But you're still sort of not really seeing the one very expensive tree for the forest. And then later, when the fund is mature, you're going to have probably one winner and a whole bunch of losers. One that has generated a huge amount of return, and a whole bunch that probably gone broke or puttered along, or maybe got bought out for a cost, whatever. So we're just blinded by the day-to-day and forget the longer horizon that we should be aiming at. That's a fairly natural thing. I mean, think if you're a fund manager, you're watching quarterly reports, you're talking with the directors, all that good stuff. I assume. I have worked for a while with a public company, and so I have seen a little bit about how that works. I'm not by no means an expert on that. But there you have it. So people do miss the power law. So now that we know that, Mr. Thiel asks what to do with the power law, and he takes it beyond the venture capital space into our own lives. So think of your life as being something like one of those funds. Realistically, you cannot do 20 different careers in one go and be successful at any of them. Maybe you can. I mean, that would leave you 8 hours per week per career, and that's with no sleep. You're not going to make a dent in anything at 8 hours per week. All you're going to do is get broke and worn out. So, knowing that, what are you going to do? 5 careers? No. Pick one that you are suited to and pursue it relentlessly. And I think there is some truth to it. I think that is spot on. I don't think it's a good idea to be truly hedging a career in terms of you're going to be a lawyer and a real estate agent. I just don't see it. But I think that within the ambit of focusing on your career, you can focus on different things. For instance, I do these in part to become a better speaker, so that it will help me become a better lawyer, and to interact with technology as it grows and changes. That will make me a better lawyer. I'm never going to be a professional YouTuber. I'm not really interested in that. I like doing a little bit of it. Another example is, let me think. You as your lawyer, you pick up a little accounting. You pick up a little bookkeeping. You learn a little bit about how companies are managed. Doesn't mean you're going to be a bookkeeper or an accountant, but those are different tools in the toolbox of being a good lawyer, depending on the type of lawyer you want to be, as the case may be. So, I guess if you're going to be a tech guy, it makes sense to know a little bit of coding and know a little bit about sales and know a little bit about how to speak and, generally what's going on in the tech sphere, without necessarily becoming a professional speaker or becoming a professional software engineer. So you got to pick your strength. Maybe you're a guy who is meant to be a software engineer. You got to go with that. Maybe you're a person who's meant to be a pastry chef. You got to go with that. And then he kind of takes a bit of a knock here. Our schools teach the opposite. Institutionalized education traffics in a kind of homogenized generic knowledge. He talks about, this is sort of a different approach to the power law approach, right? Because think about your experience in school. If it was anything like mine, where, as Mr. Thiel describes here, you go to class, boom, 70 minutes, whatever it is, bell rings, boom, next class. Everybody around you who you're in a class with is learning at the same rate, doing the same problems, writing the same quizzes. When really, and there are opportunities, I guess, for this, but you need to seek them out on your own, and that's, I suppose, the issue that differentiates your standard schooling, if you just go in and put in the mileage, versus bringing in a bit of autodidacticism or self-teaching yourself. Like my cousins who are really, really into physics and are really good at it, like my one cousin is a PhD in engineering. My other cousin did a master's in physics. The other's an engineer, really, really bright guys. But what they used to do was, they had class, which they all went to. After school, they would get together and do homework. They would do extra problems. They would do their own physics reading and their own physics work. They were really good, and one of my cousins ranked really highly in high school in one of those North American math tests, because they instinctively knew that was their strength, and they pursued it relentlessly, just as it says in the book. They didn't really worry too much about trying to be a baker. They didn't really worry too much about trying to be a lawyer. They just said, math, physics, this is the stuff. They absolutely tripled down on it, and they've all had really good careers. So, anyways, they're not billionaires who built mega companies, but they've had very fine careers and done good things, and I'm proud of them. And I think that's a really good example of that. And in my own case, I was probably a little too distracted in terms of, I like doing track and field, I liked reading poetry, I liked to write, I liked running around and partying with my friends. I did like school, I did pretty good at school, but I never really found that thing that I was relentless about in high school, at least. I was sort of more of a show up, go to class, get a B, and call it a day. Anyways, food for thought. what are you relentless about? Or has there been a time in your life where you were relentless about something? I'd like to know. Drop me a line in the comments. And thank you again for watching. I always appreciate talking with you, my friends. And we will continue our journey next week. Thank you.